I'm at the 11th Beyond Humanism Conference with Francesca Ferrando, who has just published her new book, Philosophical Posthumanism. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the book before we get started?
Absolutely. First of all, Camille, thank you so much for this interview. I'm very honored to be here with you. I would like to thank all the team and the University, the Catholic University of Lille, for this amazing opportunity. So the book is entitled Philosophical Posthumanism. It's literally come out like 3 days ago. So I'm actually borrowing a copy of a colleague because I still don't have mine because it's too soon. And it was published by Bloomsbury, Global Bloomsbury, so it's available in all countries, all over planet Earth, which is exciting. And it's what I really wanted to do with this book, it was helping not only experts, but also non-experts to really be able to enter the field of posthuman studies. So the book is it's very precise, but it also allows the reader to go through questions and answers. So it's all based on a question, answer, based, next question and answer. And the question that we are embracing in the book is, what is the posthuman wave? Why do we need to talk about posthumanism in the 21st century? So I talk about all the school of thoughts that go within the umbrella term posthuman. So explain what is posthumanism, transhumanism, anti-humanism, new materialism, meta-humanism, object-oriented ontology, you name it. And then I go more deeply into philosophical posthumanism, and I explain also what is the strength of philosophical posthumanism, and also why should we go posthuman? Because some people can ask what's the issue with human. So I explain when the term human was coined, and also all the people that were not included in this term, and also why the posthuman is really allowing us to understand the 21st century. Is really understanding the human in relation to ecology and in relation to technology. So at this point, we cannot understand the human anymore as a separate entity from the oikos, ecology, oikos, the place we inhabit, planet Earth, but also the technology. Heidegger defined technology as a way of revealing. So it's a way that also helps us revealing our own species. So it's extremely excited to be here at the conference talking about this.
Mm-hmm. So why did you decide to take part in this conference?
So Camille, I'm lucky enough that I'm actually one of the organizers. I've been part of this conference since actually 2010. So the whole conference started in 2009. So I joined 1 year later. First time for me was in Greece, Mytilene. And since then, it's been from the very beginning a different experience. It was not a conference in which you are allowed to speak. It's a conference that's asking you for your voice, because your voice is important. So from the very beginning, from the time that I received an email of acceptance, I felt it was different. The way they wrote, it was enthusiastic. It was not just, oh, your paper is accepted. It was a, thank you so much for your proposal. We can't wait to talk to you. It was a way already to start a dialogue. So I already felt the difference. And then by the time I was in Mytilene and from there on, it's been a conference that I think has been the more generative of projects and friendships and collaborations. And this is because, again, this is a movement that is happening. It's not something that we're just talking about people that died 200 years ago and we're fighting to say if I am the right truth, because it's hard to say what people thought 200 years ago, but we're really redefining the human condition in the 21st century. So again, it's a very unique conference. It's also very comprehensive, all the nuances, because there are other conferences but are more just transhuman or just posthuman. This is very comprehensive. And people coming from all over Europe and also Asia and America and Africa, it's been extremely inspiring and always very rewarding, very rewarding.
Okay, so why did you get interested in post and transhumanism?
Thank you, this is a wonderful question. I got interested because I felt that the notion of the human was not enough anymore. I felt that the notion of the human was too much embedded in traditions that did not reflect anymore where we are at as a species. At the time, I started to be familiar with the notion of the posthuman, which was not very mainstream. Right now, everyone talks about posthumanism, literally everyone, medias, newspapers, conferences that are not only academic but also non-academic. But at the time, it definitely was not the case. But I needed something also that allowed me to explore. And the posthuman, because it still is a movement that is happening, is still a notion that is in progress, not in the linear notion of progress, but it is in evolution. It really allowed me to bring my own vision. I didn't feel that I only need to be faithful to other voices. I felt that with this proposal, I could be faithful to what I was experiencing, to what I was witnessing. And again, this opportunity as a theoretical philosopher, it's very precious. And of course, also as a human being, because I come from the field of humanities and philosophy, and but I can say that not many philosophers apply to my life. Not many philosophers changed my life. Few of them did. Nietzsche, when I was very young, when I was 16-year-old, did change my life. Feminism did when I was in my 20s, and then posthumanism when I was in my early 20s. So this is why I'm also indebted on an existential level, because posthumanism really allowed me to understand more layers of existence in a deeper way. This is why, again, I felt there was time to kind of be brave enough to say maybe the notion of the human is not enough anymore.
And why is this notion not enough anymore?
Thank you. So when you ask any of your friends, or even if now you go to the street and ask people, what is the human? Everyone thinks that they have an answer. Everyone is going to say, I know what is the human. But when you ask what is the posthuman, most people, especially outside of academia, they have no clues. They say, what is this open door that is really unlimited potentialities? In this sense, the human is something that has already been adopted, comes from specific tradition, and if we want to be, we are in an academia, so I'm taking the chance to say that humanus come from ancient Rome. Roman philosophers were very fascinated with Greek philosophers. So Cicero, who is one of the main ones that really adopted and created the notion of humanitas, took this notion from paideia, Greek, and very much related to the notion of anthropos, which is the Greek notion of human. But then when you go to the Greek notion of the human, you realize that anthropos actually did not apply to all the humans who did not speak Greek. Because in order to be anthropos, which means human, you had to be Greek, you could not be Etruscan or Egyptian or Persian. And all these people had amazing civilizations, to the point that if you think of ancient Mesopotamia or ancient Egypt, that's where writing starts. But for the Greeks, they were barbarians. So the whole notion of the of anthropos, which was later on adopted as humanus, paideia, education was adopted again in Rome. It was very much dualistic in the sense that I am human because I have education, because I have access to education, because I speak Greek, and I separate myself from those barbarians who do not speak Greek, we are in constant war, because Greece were at constant war with Persia. So, and this is not something that is just there and then got somehow recovered, because if you think, for instance, of the history of Americas, I teach at NYU, so I am based in American land. And in the let's say 16th century was when most of the European conquest of Latin America was happening. And there was all this discussion, for instance, in Spain, between de las Casas and Sepúlveda regarding Native Americans. And Sepúlveda was saying that they were not humans. They were subhumans, less than humans. They were barbarians. This is why, according to Sepúlveda, who was a humanist, who was a philosopher that was developing humanism at the time, they could be enslaved. But de las Casas was saying they are, of course, they are human, they cannot be enslaved, they are our brother and sister. He was coming from a Christian, let's say, radical Christian perspective. Both of them were Christians. But again, Sepúlveda was coming also from the experience, because Sepúlveda did live many years in Latin America, while de las Casas lived many years in Latin America, and Sepúlveda did not. So again, this notion of the human that we think it has been comprehensive of everyone genetically human is not true. If you look at the history of slavery, sexism, racism, ethnocentrism, ableism, the freaks were not included in the notion of the human. They were the monsters. So again, we now know that the human has not been comprehensive even in the biological term Homo sapiens, which is from Linnaeus. And even if you study Linnaeus, you realize that the Homo sapiens is also hierarchical. He put the European as the most enlightened one because they are connected to reason. The Africans, according to him, they are less because they are lazy, according to him. Asians were moody, according to him. So again, this notion of the human has always been hierarchical. This is why I think the posthuman really opened a lot of possibilities, not only in relation to humanities, plural, but also to non-humanities, non-human animals, and technology.
Okay, thank you for answering my questions.
You're so welcome, and thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.